I don't have an intro to this thing. I didn't have any talk, so how's it going, Sterling?
I'm good, Ryan. It's always good.
Yeah. Yeah, sharpshooter, when does it start? It starts right effing now!
Right
Welcome to
now.
Thunderdome, bitch. I guess, so my plan here, I'm just going to do like a little bit of background so people know what the hell we're talking about, because my title of this video is vague as fuck.
Yeah.
Let's put us there. Former slave speaks out about abusive sex cult being run on rural property. Dude, imagine going to an English class just to learn to put that sentence together.
Whew. Oh boy.
So as you can see here, Bella's meth-addicted sister-in-law from Twilight is pretty mad at some dude. And apparently you know him. Her name is Felicity Borg. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, she's a Borg.
And this is the dude we're going to be talking about, James Davis.
Yeah.
Which looks like a normal guy, right? You'd think nothing of it. Turns out, what Abu American talks about being on Twitter, this guy's doing in real life. I guess. Do you want to sum this up, or should I?
Yeah. Look, I tell you what. I'll
Yeah.
actually. Why don't you sum it up from what you have seen by reading these articles, and then I can sum it up from my experience, having actually like known the guy.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, so I'm approaching this from a Ryan Holiday media perspective.
Yeah.
This was the first story. You brought it to my attention about a month ago, and it's basically a hit piece. There's no facts. There's no nothing really, except for every chance they get, they throw. Where do they call him something in here? I think they call him a sex trafficker or like. Yeah, they always use the words cult.
Yep.
Never quantified. They always have photos like this, which is every tradcon's wet dream. It's basically meant to like emotionally manipulate people, and they don't ever flat out say he's a criminal, but they always infer it. Like many described a cult-like environment. So that's not saying he's a cult. It's just like it's cult-like. It's like alt-right adjacent or some shit like that. This girl who apparently, and from what you tell me, nobody knows who she is anyway. So like I don't know, she was never part of the Dude Ranch.
Dude.
Yeah. And then she just comes out with this giant hit piece. Mom's doing the sob story. He picked her up and something, and it's just a bunch of like chicks love this. This reads to me like a Netflix special. And this is the part that I found interesting about it. So I've been on this side of the tar and feathering, and I also know how this works. So this article will come out. It won't have sources. It'll be very speculative, but they'll make very, like, I guarantee you a lawyer has looked over this to make sure there's nothing in here that could be construed as liable.
Yep.
Or as libel. Then what happens is a bunch of other newspapers pick this up, more national, because this is just like Australia's local version of ABC. And then they will take this, use this as a source, exaggerate that one too. So what things can we reference on this without it being libel? And then it slowly filters down. If you look up stories on this guy now, it's like child trafficking, sex predator, just completely overblown. And I know this is how it's going to end up, is that one of the national media, like TV centers, are going to pick this up.
They already did.
Oh, they already did.
Yeah.
And playing it as if this guy is Hitler and Cosby with Weinstein in his balls, like the absolute worst human being ever. And it's all based on nothing. And they're all going to link to each other in this giant circle jerk. And that's the worst part, is like my impression of this. I don't know the guy. I don't know what he's being accused of technically, because none of the things they're talking about are like, they call it sex trafficking, but all the girls are there on their own. So like, I don't know what you're trafficking.
Yeah.
My guess is somebody got pissed off at this guy, either jilted ex-girlfriend or somebody for some business side of things. They put out this hit piece. Everybody picks it up because, middle-aged soccer moms love stories like this. His life is going to be ruined, even though court case is probably going to find nothing. But whatever happens between then and now will have done its damage to him. That's my theory on this. So why don't you tell me what you know?
Well, I think the court case is going to find. I think they're going to find him guilty purely because he's what everyone hates. Like that photo right there is actually. I think there might even be one bit further down. You might keep scrolling down. There's one with the girls all. That's a good one too. Keep going. There might be one with them all in red. If you keep going down,
Right,
it's like him and a bunch of girls in red. Not that one. That one's a good one though. But that's another reason. That photo also encapsulates why they would hate him. But keep going down. there was one more photo.
Oh, she has a gun. Yeah, that makes
Oh
sense.
no, she got a gun.
I don't even know what that's supposed to tell people. Like, dude, they have a shed out back.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, it's a cult because there's multiple. That's the one I'm talking about. That photo right there. Okay, so here's why I think I fear for my buddy James here, and that's because he's living the lifestyle that every man would want to live, and powers that be do not like that. Powers that be do not like seeing men doing this sort of thing. They do not like seeing men living this kind of a lifestyle. One man, multiple women. It's not something that the mainstream media likes to push. You know, they like to push the complete opposite. Whenever they talk about polyamory, they like to push
like fat chicks with soy husbands. They love that shit.
Exactly, fat chicks with soy husbands. They really like that stuff. But that is so. Let's stay on that image there for a minute while I explain what this is. So James and I got to know each other through Instagram and Twitter about a year and a half ago, I want to say. And the way we got in touch, so we've never actually met in person. I'll start with that. It's just like you and me, Ryan. It's like an online
online friends. Yay!
Online friends, exactly. So what happened, right? Is this is his family. This is his these are all his wives. All these women you see in the photo here. First thing that I really should point out is in this entire article that they keep saying James Davis and the women he refers to as his slaves. He does not refer to them as his slaves. He refers to them as his wives. He refers to them as his family. Like this is how he refers to them. Like human beings, yes. Like women he loves and cares for and provides for, which he does. He does all those things. So he actually has this. He has actually a very, very unique combination of like a trad wife setup with like BDSM and polyamory. He's melded the two together quite well, because when he's talked to me, I've asked him, like, how do you do this? How do you do what you do? He's like, Stirling, here's what I do. I take sluts and I teach them traditional values.
Oh, it's a wet. Oh, turn the hoe into a housewife. Jesus.
It literally is that situation. But he does it through the medium of a BDSM dom sub dynamic. Right. That's how he does it. Because I'll go back. If I jump all over the place a little bit here, let me know. There's a lot to sort of encapsulate here.
Yeah, it's fine.
So I don't sound like I'm like a sexual assault apologist or something. I'm trying to give you guys the actual like facts of what I know about this man, about his character, and why I'm friends with the guy, because I believe he's a good man and I believe he's being smeared. I believe his character is being smeared right now. So I got to know him because at least two of the girls you see in this photo were escorts at some point back in Australia, and they were escorting at the same time that I was escorting. And the sex worker scene, on Twitter and on Instagram, you all sort of just follow each other, and that's it's just you just get to know, because there's not a very big community in Australia, so you get to know who everyone is, and so we all connected on Instagram, and then I started seeing his face pop up here and there. And I thought that was interesting. And then we ended up following each other. I started to get a vibe from the guy that he was very much, more conservative, more of a very anti-SJW.
Gotcha.
Which I really resonated with. And then we sort of hit it off from there. He's actually ex-military. He used to be in the Australian Armed Forces.
Ooh.
So he's a veteran. And basically he's been in the BDSM scene for a while. And he... basically got a couple of these girls were his sort of primaries for the longest time. They've been in a relationship with him for at least 5 years, I believe. And then the other 4 have slowly come in over the last couple of years as he sort of built and solidified his sort of family structure. And then they recently moved to, a property in rural New South Wales where they built this farm together. And you saw the photos there where he was teaching them how to shoot and hunt, because there's wild pigs on their property. He was teaching them how to skin and butcher the animals that they were, like goats and pigs on their property. He was teaching them all these really fundamental farming skills and all these really fundamental like traditional housewife skills, like how to sew, how to cook, how to clean, like all this stuff. He was teaching them lots of traditional values, which is heresy these days,
I suppose.
So
just laughing at all. I don't know. I remember when you first told us this, my first thought was like, why the fuck are you on a farm? I didn't. That was the part that bothered me. Not the charges, not the 5 wives, not the dude slinging it. It's just like, why would you work on a farm?
Because he was in they were in more in a main in like a bigger city before that, not a
Yeah,
major
yeah.
city, but a bigger town, and they just wanted more space, and
Gotcha.
they wanted to create their own kind of family farm there. And so what from in all my interactions, in all my so let me sort of kind of encapsulate here. In all my
Please do.
interactions with James, he has
Oops.
been.
I'm trying to get you. I'm just slow. Don't worry.
He's just
There we
slow.
go.
In all my interactions with the guy, he has proven to be nothing but a good man with a good heart. Like everything he does, he seems to do from a place of well-meaning to help these women and to put them like to give them what they need, not what they want. Right. And you'll probably understand that statement.
Oh yeah.
It's and that's kind of what a dom sub relationship is all about in the first place. Is like they have a need. The submissive has a need for structure, has a need for boundaries, has a need for rules, and that is what the dom provides to them.
Yeah.
And so he has done this with this dynamic, and it is obviously a polyamorous dynamic. And in some of the cases, some of these women had boyfriends. Some of his wives had boyfriends,
Like while they were staying on the dude ranch.
Yes,
I don't.
exactly.
Is that what it's called? I'm just going to call it that because
I don't know what it's called. You can call it the dude ranch for what
right.
you want. So it wasn't just a strictly one way. There was a couple of girls who were seeing other dudes. I don't know how long that lasted. That was only for a brief period, I think. But in all my interaction with the guy, the values I've seen come from him have been very traditional conservative kind of values, but obviously with an understanding of, with a more kinkier flavor to it. Now, the accusation that's coming at him right now is from a girl who was involved with him quite a long time ago. And
right.
And judging from what I can gather in this, again, I don't know that girl. I've never seen that girl before. I've never seen that dynamic or that relationship. I only sort of knew him after he started forming this current family he's got.
Mm-hmm.
So I can only really comment on that. But just you and I are both familiar with what a hip piece looks like, and I'm sure you and I have both been in situations where angry ex-girlfriends have made up slanderous lies about us.
Yeah, well, not ex-girlfriend for me, ex-warrant officer, but same thing.
Yeah, same kind of thing. And
they both fuck you on the regular, and then they stop.
This look to me, it just looks like a clear case of that happening, of a woman who was. And look, maybe look in her to play devil's advocate. Look,
mm-hmm.
This was several years ago. He probably hadn't refined his style, his technique of screening for submissives yet. He probably was a bit rough around the edges in his approach, and that experience might have been the one that set him on the path to actually perfect perfect the balance that he kind of got to in the end with these 6 other women,
right?
Because they all adore him. I will tell you that right now.
Well, they went to his bail hearing, did they not?
Yes, they all went to defend him, to stand by his side. Like they absolutely, and one of them was pregnant with his first child, I believe.
Aw.
So they love and adore the man, and like you don't get that if I can't see that happening if the man is actually abusive and this evil person that they're trying to make him out to be. And it's not a cult. He doesn't make them sit down and drink Kool-Aid. He's just trying to instill traditional family values in a polyamorous context. It's kind of which is interesting. But as soon as they throw the word, as soon as you see a guy with multiple women, they immediately think like sex cult. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of sex going on. Don't get me wrong. They all fuck each other. That's part of the fun. And there is like BDSM tools involved, like whips, like chains, like floggers, like collars, like cages. There's lots of restraints. There's all this sexual kinky stuff is involved because that's where they came from. That's how they all met each other. They all met each other in those sort of scenes.
Well, and here's why I disagree that he's going to get hung for it. I think this is going to be a lot of smoke, but no fire. So I was doing some research beforehand on this. This is the 2018 Modern Slavery Act came into force. And when you read through this, you can tell this was designed not for like locals having dom sub stuff. This is for people importing a certain third worlder sex things here. I'm assuming it's Southeast Asians, what they usually bring down there for like prostitution or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what this stuff is kind of designed. I also, by the way, I found it super funny that like the first references are to the tax code. Because apparently, like, slaves aren't taxable, and that's the big problem from the government's perspective.
Oh yeah, they like their cash cows, man. You can't take away their cash cows.
Yeah, but I mean, it says it's if you're a slave, even if you want to be a slave, you have to report it. That's the thing that kind of got me there. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I could see how, even if this girl was a fan of his, if the mom wanted to rat her out, and it's totally possible that, you know, daughter liked this stuff. Mom found out. Mom started throwing all this shit. Obviously, it's not, but like you could see that happening too. So it's almost like,
I mean, and you can also see the case of like him and her break it off. And then several years down the track, she sees him happy with 6 other women, and then the jealousy bubbles up, and she's like, "Well, if I couldn't have that happiness, then they can't have that happiness," and then she's gonna try and ruin it for everyone.
Dude, welcome to the "don't shit where you eat" red pill policy, where you don't sleep with coworkers. Because they don't care about coworkers dating. They care about coworkers breaking up. And chances are, if it's between you and her, she's going to win.
Yeah.
Because they just don't want to take the risk. And it's much less risky to say man bad than it is to say woman crazy.
Yes.
But, and I don't think he's going to get away with it. Because I've been looking through this stuff. And obviously there's like, the law is not easy. Especially Australian law. I really suck at it. I'm decent with the National Defence Act and Canadian law and American law to a way lesser extent, but Australian law blows my mind how many things are different here. From what I've seen, though, the crux is going to be his ability to argue whether, like, she was free to leave. If it was detainment, seems to be the key factor. So I don't think that's going to be there. I'm going to guess, I don't care how bad his old harem game was. I doubt tying a girl to a radiator and telling her you can't go to the store to get milk's been a thing. So that's why as long as he's got a smart lawyer and so long as there's not like a very corrupt DA. Now, I don't know. You haven't been in Australia in a while, but I've only been there once for like 2 weeks. So is that like the Chicago of Australia where people here are known that the people are, you know, fairly corrupt, or is this kind of like, yeah, it's boring, it's Commonwealth, they just do the law and they're pretty dispassionate about it?
It's pretty boring from my understanding of it all. And he's in like a rural. He's actually in the. They actually moved. The other part of the reason they moved to where they were living is because it was the most conservative electorate in the entire nation.
Oh, really?
That's why.
What part of Australia is that? Like, which province or state?
New South Wales.
New South Wales.
That's the state. New South Wales. It was
state. My bad.
Yeah, that was.
So do they do governors or premiers?
Premiers. Yeah.
Oh, premier.
Premier.
I'm actually okay. All right. Gladys Berejiklian. Oh boy. I'm gonna throw this up there too.
You're gonna throw a picture up?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a picture up. Share
well,
screen.
If her name's Gladys, this is not a great start.
Yeah, no. Well, you'll see. Oh, I just realized I got all these Brave tabs open. There we go. Modern slavery, New South Wales premier.
Oh, great. Yeah. Yeah, if it's a woman, he's probably fucked. So
well, she's the premier, so she doesn't have I guarantee you, she's pushing for this forward. It really depends on the judiciary up there, but I don't know. Who knows? It's weird though. I hate how we have to sit here and describe like not the letter of the law and did he act conduct becoming, but who is it in charge of enforcing the law, because that's going to give us a good indication.
So here's the thing. So any woman that's entering into that kind of a relationship dynamic, right? Mm-hmm. It's a consensual thing.
It has to be.
Yeah, it has to be. You can't. You don't end up with like 6 women moving to the countryside with you by force.
Yeah.
And mind you, and he was openly putting it out on the social media for years.
So it's like they weren't surprised. Oh, I'm just gonna go have some dinner. Maybe we'll watch some Netflix and chill. I'm in a harem.
If he was actually doing something like illegal, or actually doing something that was breaking the law or coercive or forcing them, he wouldn't have been putting every family photo out on the internet for all the world to see. And that was another thing that happened, was because he went through like 4 different Instagram accounts, and it was just of images like that last one we showed of him and all of his women smiling from ear to ear. That's all he ever posted, was really kind of like wholesome-ish photos of one man and 6 women all all smiling at each other, but they were always wearing their collars, their submissive collars. and he was always like, kind of like the center of attention. Feminists hated him. He went through 4 different Instagram accounts, and he eventually just said, "Fuck it, I'm done."
He got banned more than like MLD John. Jeez.
Yeah, they just didn't like him, and so that starts to tell you why he is coming under fire.
Yeah.
But the second thing I'll say, going back to the point of like a woman enters into this kind of a relationship dynamic consensually, right? And in the thing that might get him is that I'm pretty sure at some point, like cages would have been used as some kind of like some form of punishment, right?
Don't mind that.
Some form of punishment in that dom sub dynamic, because different subs require different kinds of punishments, right? So some girls, for example, when most people think of BDSM, they think of like whips and chains and paddles and crops and stuff.
No, it's just punishment.
That's not exactly what it is, because some girls might be a pain slut. A pain slut actually likes pain. She actually gets off on pain. Right. So pain isn't a punishment for her. Pain is a reward for her, if anything. So spanking is actually a reward for that particular girl. A punishment for her might be something menial, like doing the dishes.
Seriously, so a normal housewife.
But conversely, other subs might get off on being useful. So doing the dishes for that particular sub might be a reward, because she feels a greater sense of self-esteem after she's accomplished that task. So instead, you have to give her something. You have to punish her in a different way. You might punish her by making her write lines.
Right. So it has to cater to the girl's sensibilities, is what you're saying.
Exactly. And then in other cases, it's going to be for some, it might involve like, okay, it's time out. You're gonna be there sitting in the corner, or you're gonna sit in your cage for like the next 5 minutes, and you're just gonna be there in time out so you can calm down and come to terms and understand why you're being punished. Because that's another part of the dom sub dynamic is like, okay, you have a pre-agreed kind of set of rules and boundaries, like, and requirements of both partners. So here's what the sub's required to do. Here's what the dom's. Here's my responsibilities. Here's your responsibilities. Here's the boundaries.
Right.
Okay? If those boundaries are crossed, then here's how and why I'm going to punish you for it, to correct your behavior, to give you what you need, not what you want.
So, question on the cave then. So I know about safe words. Obviously, if you're going into like kink, like bondage, super stuff like that, they usually have a safe word, so that way you can tell like what's pleasurable pain and what's like get me out of here pain. I got to assume I'm assuming that same sensibility carries over. Like for the cages, for example, he can't just leave her in there for 3 weeks. There has to be some like way if she had to get out, right?
Yeah, there's going to be safe words. There's going to be like ways out.
Like I said, I'd have to. I don't have the wherewithal to do the research on this, but I know for a fact there's been some dom sub gone wrong in court where they've probably used the safe word argument to get out of it being forced detention. Now, how that played out, I think this guy here, he really needs to look into it, because like I said, and I'll know more as I go through the law, but I think the crux of it is going to be he has to be able to prove involuntary detention. And the girl would likely lie about it, because anybody who's bringing this forward is obviously lying about it, according to what you say and what he says. If I'm wrong, and I'll just delete the video, whatever. Maybe he is fucking making skin suits. I don't know. But, you know what I mean? And he's going to have 6 witnesses saying, yeah, he put me in a cage. All I had to do was say, banana sundae, and he opens the cage, or the key to it is just under here. You just grab it yourself and do it. Yeah. But I don't think that's the goal for this. Like, I don't think anybody cares about him, and I'll tell you why. And this is why I had this article up. You're going to like this. I know you haven't read red pill stuff in a while because you've been busy, like, not being a nerd or getting laid, right? Threat points. My favorite thing, Dalrock. This guy is like a conservative Christian, married, happy. He just liked following the meta of like intersexual dynamics. And when I see this case, which it doesn't sound like there was a lot of evidence thought. It sounded like, and you go by those modern slavery things, it was forced mandatory reporting. Basically, even if you say, yeah, I'm in a dom sub relationship and it's cool and he has me in a cage, anybody who overhears that has to report it by law. So it's kind of designed just for this kind of like over abuse.
Right.
And the part I'm getting at here, and make the case here that the party who wants out of the marriage has the most power within a divorce here. The key part, yes, and they say it involves a threat point. So here's the key part that I'm getting at here. There we go. And I want to map this to what we're talking about. Thus, the exit threat model predicts that changes in divorce regimes will have real effects. If the threat is sufficiently credible, it may directly affect intrafamily bargaining outcomes without the option ever being exercised. I don't think the ultimate goal is to hammer this guy. I think the idea is to make this as big and as wide and as loud a case as possible, make as much noise, call him the worst things ever, talk about the worst charges ever, because it may directly affect bargaining outcomes. It's actually going to make it harder for guys to want to pursue this lifestyle. I think that's the goal here.
Yeah, make an example of him.
Yeah, exactly. It's a cooling threat point. And so I don't think Tate's all of a sudden going to be like, all right, sorry, ladies, all but one of you have to go. But there is a likely case that this is going to have a cooling off effect on any kind of multiple woman, single man organization. That's my theory. I mean, we'll find out in years, right?
Well, the Tates don't have to worry about that kind of thing at all because they're not in the West. They're doing it in Romania where no one gives a shit.
Yeah, fair enough.
But James doing it in Australia was the risky part. And I think deep down he kind of knew that it was a risky thing, but he just got sick and tired of people telling him how to live his life.
Yeah. To be fair, though, if you look up Australian law, he actually doesn't have to be in Australia for this. He just has to be an Australian citizen.
Oh, great.
That's the part that's kind of scary. Canadian law is like this too. Like we had a guy went to Thailand about a decade back, and he was just there to pick up ladyboys, and I use the word boy specifically. He did some cool Photoshop filter to show off his like 13-year-old, boyfriends on Instagram or Facebook or some shit like that. And the Canadian government's like, all right, just reverse that filter, just to blur, whatever. Caught him, arrested him, got him extradited.
Wow.
So that's the weird thing too, is like, even if he left Australia, unless he gives up his citizenship, it doesn't exactly get him outside of the law. At least there. I think the States don't do that, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, shit. Well,
you're like, I changed my plan.
Yeah, it's the thing that like
it's a slow constriction, man.
Because normally if you had an ex who didn't like you, like there's very little she can do. She can just call you an asshole. But in his particular circumstance, the relationship is his relationships are extreme relationships. They're not vanilla. They're not everyone's cup of tea. They're dark. And so, for every one of us that has a jaded ex, it's like, okay, she might shit talk you behind your back or something. Whoop-de-doo. That's about as bad as it can get. But with him,
bringing slavery charges.
Exactly. With him, it's a case of, oh shit, like I can actually ruin this man's life if I want to. And some women really get off on that power. They really, really get off on that power. And I feel really sorry for because I've chatted with his wives. I'd like to think I'm an acquaintance of some of them, and I feel really sorry for them because they just take it like their male protector, their male role model in life is now behind bars. Is now like
the hypergamous best option. That was the best they think they can do. He's like the best for them. Probably see other guys like everything we talk about here. Yeah. That's about as close to the unicorn as they're going to get, and they just had it taken away because some girl was bitter or jaded.
Especially because they're not all like. There's a couple of girls that are sort of in their early 20s, I think, but the other ones are sort of late 20s, early 30s, I think.
Oh,
a couple of them. So they're like, that was their chance. That was their, like literally their peak guy, like the best guy they could get. And he would say this to me. He was like, look, you got to be the father figure they never had. If you want to take a slut and turn her into a housewife,
just hug her out of those stripper shoes.
You have to be the father she never had.
Yeah.
And I think they're gonna try and bring some kind of like pimping accusations against him as well, because a couple of them were escorting. Now I don't know if he had any part in it or he taken it. I don't think he did, from what I could see. I think the girls are just doing it independently of themselves.
He's not slave holding either. It didn't stop the accusations. That's the part that's kind of scary, is that you can fling these accusations, ruin a guy's life, and there is no recompense. Like what can he do? Maybe take him to a tort law for slander?
Yeah, that's about it, right?
But even then, the reporting procedures, it's completely... If it wasn't for the fact that she went on the national news and did a story on it, he'd have never known who did this reporting.
Yeah, true.
That's what's kind of scary. I mean, the whole thing is scary. It's basically a giant landmine.
Yeah, because obviously the accusations had been made a while ago because he got arrested randomly and like whilst shopping. He was out doing the shopping and the police took him into custody and bang, his life's like over.
Jesus, do you know how scary that is? By the way.
Luckily, I don't because it's never happened to me.
Well, it happened to me once where like I didn't do anything and I didn't think I did anything. And then when you get picked up or investigated or anything along those lines, it's got a Damocles sword thing. Because at first you're confused. You think they have the wrong person. Then you got to start thinking back. Like your first thought, and this is kind of fucked up, is like, what did I do? And then you're literally doing 80s reference. I'll skip it. But you literally go back through your life and it's like, well, I stole Hagen Mitchell's car in grade 2, his Matchbox car. Maybe it's that coming back to bite me. But then you don't want to say anything. So like, what if it's not that? And I say it. Now he's got me on the car stealing and whatever else this is. And guaranteed, they're hot-headed. Cops salivate over shit like this. Especially like, we're going to save the woman. Like that firefighter dream of pulling a girl out of a burning building. Yeah. They won't say shit to him. They'll treat him like a monster because all they care about is getting their collars. Makes them look good, gets them a promotion. And this is the military taught me this too with like sharp training and op honor, which is the Canadian version of Me Too, is they're literally looking for scalps. Like I guarantee you that police station that picked him up at some point in the last 10 years with, Governor, whatever her name is that I can't pronounce, has had we need to show we're taking this thing seriously and I need you guys to find me an example. I don't care how much of a stretch it is. Because then by the time they find out it's, done, it's too late. It's like everybody is going to make a career off of this. And they're literally like hunting perps. In this case, hunting pimps. I don't know. I shouldn't call him a pimp because I guess he's not a pimp either, right?
Yeah. Some of the girls had OnlyFans accounts. And I know he did a little bit of like photo shoot stuff with them because he's a rigger.
Oh, okay.
So he can tie up knots and stuff. So he would put the girls in suspension and do some photo shoots with them, and sometimes he'd fuck them on camera and stuff, like be the stunt cock or be like the male talent in their pornos and stuff for their OnlyFans.
Right.
But I don't know, but I don't think he was sort of the one running all their OnlyFans accounts and doing that. Maybe he was doing that situation, but I don't know if
everybody does that though.
Exactly, and it's like, well, okay, what do you do? Like. But here's the thing that they deliberately chose to live in a very conservative area because they have conservative values. But that also might be their undoing because it's like typical like tradcons aren't too keen on the idea of polyamory and they aren't too keen on the idea of BDSM. Yeah. So ironically, they would have they might not have come under such heavy fire if they were living in a more liberal area.
Which is funny because I remember very distinctly that Jesus used to hang out with hookers. And they thought he was pretty good last I checked.
That is
maybe
true.
Not what he was talking about, but at least his lifestyle they were a fan of. I don't know. I guess maybe 2,000 years from now he'll be the Jesus. Yeah, the whole thing is weird. I'm thinking from an audience perspective what to take away from this. And the only thing I could think of is ignore the sizzle and focus on the meat of it. Like I said, it's in his position, which I've to a lesser extent I've been in before. The best thing you can do is stay calm, realize nobody is your friend. The friends, like, how is his social circles been? Have people thrown him under the bus, or are they generally outside of the girls, like friends and whatever? They've been generally supportive.
I haven't really seen that because, we connected on Facebook, me and him.
Yeah,
and I've connected with some of his wives on Facebook, and basically my only real insight into like his entire social circle was through his Facebook feed, which doesn't really have anything on it right now, obviously, because he's in custody.
Because that's the thing. If he takes any like emotional stress from this outside of like the gravity of the situation, I think it's going to be realizing that his friends and family may just decide that the woman is right, the man is wrong, and they kind of like throw him under the bus. Maybe it's not. I've just seen it happen that way, and I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, like to give you another example of like this man's character, like every Christmas he would host like people without family, like men without family.
We picked up strays.
Like dudes who didn't have a family to spend Christmas with, he would invite them to his house and provide, and his family would provide Christmas lunch and Christmas dinner for them and stuff. And that doesn't sound like the kind of guy who's like running around trying to like abuse people.
No, I bet you he got that from the military, to be honest. So, like my girl and I used to do that too, because a lot of guys get posted. They don't have a chance because they're in the middle of a course or a sale. They can't get home for the holidays, and you just kind of invite a bunch of them in to give them a little taste of it. That's what I mean. It's like character-wise, there's really nothing about this guy that doesn't appeal to a broad subset of people. It's just their own internal biases get them to project their demons onto him.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's projection. It's like, what insecurities do I have that I can project, like that I can use and to turn this man into a monster?
And let's face it, the jaded ex-girlfriend who got ditched for a younger model, they're all over this one.
Yeah. And here's the thing: I first heard about this guy back when I was in Australia. When the first time I actually heard about him, I was warned about him by a couple of girls in my industry who had been in the BDSM scene themselves, and they're like, "Oh, watch out for James. He does some dodgy shit." That's what they told me. And I was like, that's interesting. And they sort of made some accusations of him like picking up underage girls and stuff. And then and then we connected, and I was like, okay, I was a bit hesitant at first. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, okay, well, let's just see what this guy's about, because I know that people I know that people slander, and I know, and maybe not even intentionally, but I know when I can recognize when people are sort of programmed. They're using their programmed responses, like they're using their NPC. They're regurgitating the NPC narrative.
Yeah,
because this guy they're seeing doesn't fit with their model of the world, so he must be a bad person. And so I'm like, okay, this is what I'm observing. So let's just see what the guy's actually like. Maybe they're right, maybe they're completely wrong.
But you got to trust your eyes.
But I'm gonna find out for myself first. And yeah, from my interactions with the guy, he had very good, wholesome, traditional values amongst all things. And I think maybe one of the girls was like, she might have been a bit younger when they started like courting. I think this is possible.
Well, when you say a bit younger, by the law, are we talking Chris Hansen or are we talking just Karen's pissed?
I think we're talking to Karen's pissed.
Oh, well, then whatever. It's like fuck.
Exactly. So it's like, oh well, okay, well, where's the big deal?
Yeah, I get it. I just don't get personally the idea of build his character up. This is actually a great thing, a difference between Red Pill and that you may not know. It turns out there isn't a philosophical difference between Red Pill and everything else, but there is a certain distinction you'll notice between it. And one of it is moral subjectivity versus moral objectivity. So in a Red Pill sense, moral subjectivity is, there's some things hurt some people, some things are good for other people. Morals are just kind of like, how do you hurt the least amount of people? But from everything else, or like a blue pill standpoint, morality is the authority that you use to decide who gets to set objective or subjective truth. That's why everybody talks about my truth and this, and then it's always about doxing people's personal lives and that. It's basically a giant female character attack, and whoever has the most unapproachable morality is the one that gets to dictate what truth means. It's kind of a freaky thing when you look at it, and I don't want to get too stupid cerebral here because I'm not that smart, but I don't. It's just one of those things that's interesting. And then you find the easiest example of seeing guys who are acting like chicks is when they take the character of a person into account before they take the facts of what's happened into account. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They're going to judge the character. They're going to find some way to slander the character.
Yeah,
and then use that to retroactively like decide that what he did was wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Even on a small extent. Let's say this guy had one girl and it was Buddy had him as a wife and then she left him to join him. He'd probably say the same thing. This guy's an asshole and a douchebag. And it's the same jilted lover. Having said that, it's a very small farm he has. I'm not going to lie. We had 1,000 acres where I grew up. So maybe it's not so bad if you're only doing like 100.
Showing off.
Yeah, all the flexes in the world. It smells like cow shit all the way over here.
So I think because they took some photos of like one of in that article they had a really good the picture where they had the girl shooting a gun.
Yeah.
It was like a teenager with a gun, and it's like, well, she's 18. I think she might be 19. You dumbass. It's not like she's
technically correct, but you know what they're trying to say.
But you know what they're trying to say. And there's another photo of that same girl wearing holding a teddy bear and wearing like a negligee.
Oh, that's her. Okay, here, I'll put this back up so you guys see what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah. This because it gives good context, and it's it's just this is how you can tell immediately this is a hit piece. So that's the same girl as I think if you either scroll up or down.
I think she's down a few. I'll find it in a sec. Keep
No,
talking.
it must be up. Yeah, so that's the same girl. And this one, bam, where she's holding a teddy bear and she's negligent. And it's like, what is it? Can you read the caption underneath there, Ryan?
A teenager living with James Davis. Supplied.
Exactly. So they make her like they deliberately pick the photo where she's playing, like trying to play a younger character. This is a photo that's taken from her OnlyFans. I can tell you, I don't obviously.
Well,
don't
you can see
subscribe
the
to her
X
again.
from where you close the screen on and you can see the little checks here. This could almost be like somebody's Instagram.
Yeah, I can tell already that this is a photo shoot photo because I'm in this industry.
Yeah.
Like she's putting on a character for a sexual fantasy of somebody. She is not an underage girl, but they're trying to make it look like he's grooming an underage girl.
That's why these hit pieces are so damn good, because they don't actually say it's such like it's a chick written thing. They don't actually accuse anything. They don't say anything. They just infer it. They hint at
There's
it.
illicit emotions.
Yeah.
They're just trying to elicit emotion after emotion. And the one below that where so this is actually stay on that photo for a second, Ryan.
Oh, okay.
Go back to
Sure.
Go back to that one. Stay on that one. Because that's no, the one above that in the forest. Yeah, that one.
You want the
So that's
Wicker Man one.
So the Wicker Man one. So that's like a wedding ceremony. So the way he did this thing was, so obviously they're not all. He's not legally married to all of them because that's not legal.
It's just a party then.
But they would enter into a contract. As if they wanted to become a sub in his family, he would enter in a contract, and like I said before, it would stipulate here's the do's and the don'ts. Here's your responsibilities, my responsibilities, the boundaries, the punishments, and they would earn their stripes. Like they would if they'd been like in the family long enough, if they'd lived up to their responsibilities long enough, they would sort of graduate to different levels. And they would eventually get collared, which is basically the silver collar you see on some of these girls in these photos. And that was their wedding ceremony. When they got collared, they would be part of the family. He'd start calling them a wife, and he'd have a ceremony like this to celebrate.
Yeah,
and
I remember the collar being like that's the thing that the BDSM types love to have. Like giving a guy your key was like a big symbolic gesture or shit like that.
Yeah. It's a symbol of respect. It's a symbol of trust.
Or opting in, consent.
Yeah,
heaven forbid.
Heaven forbid. You could call it a form of consent. Surprise, surprise. And obviously they tried to take this as far in the opposite direction as they could, and he calls them his slaves, and you couldn't make it a more obvious like hit piece. Yeah. But in all these photos, all these wedding ceremony photos, you see the other women are very, very happy for a new woman being added to the family. Yeah, like they're all happy.
There's definitely no side eye happening, even with the blurred out faces.
Yeah, they all love each other, and and again, it's another example of why this is terrible, because it's just not only have they ruined his life, they've ruined the lives of six other women.
Oh, they don't care.
They don't
Another body for the pyre, right?
Yeah, they don't give a shit. So
yeah, just I don't know. Like I said, watch. Oh, there's the necklace. So anybody who knows, and that's the problem, most people don't know anything about this. I have like a cursory knowledge because, the red pill space, you hear guys having sex, guys will do all kinds of stuff. Like I said, it's never been my cup of tea, but most people don't know. They don't know what the hell this is about. As far as they know, this is like a rape necklace. I think that's the problem. Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? Like that's a huge problem, because people who are completely ignorant to something are being given subjective facts about something to fill a predetermined narrative.
Correct.
Puts pressure on the political class because they have to appease the public. So they may push for this. Like if you had let's say everybody on Earth had BDSM classes in grade fucking 11. Somebody tries to bring this thing up. Obviously people are just going to shake their head at it. Probably not a lot of pressure. May not have even come to anything. Even with all this hit piece, it would have just been no different than, what's that tabloid for the British thing? The Daily News or whatever they call it. You know the one I'm talking about?
The Sun or something like that.
Yeah. It'd be like one of those stories as opposed to ABC, Disney conglomerate.
Yes, exactly.
That's the kind of thing that scares me about this, because social media has amplified this stuff to the point, and everybody is ignorant about some hot button sexual topic because guys aren't fucking anybody anymore.
Yeah. So I guess like one of the big takeaways guys who are watching this can have from this channel, this topic, is that you've got to be real careful.
Like discreet.
You got to be more discreet. You've got to be real careful about putting this stuff out there. There's nothing wrong with having this kind of a lifestyle, But just know that you are going to get vilified. You're going to get turned into a monster by anyone who comes from a blue pill perspective. For anyone who comes from a mainstream perspective, they're going to make you out to be the devil incarnate.
And I would say from a legal perspective, it's probably like, I don't know how much he's done research beforehand. Like, look into human trafficking laws if you're going to have multiple girls, shit like this.
Yeah.
I guarantee, because if you read through them, there's going to be certain criteria that they have to prove to show that this was a case of, whatever they want to call it, trafficking. Yeah. Usually it'll like 3 or 4 points, and as long as you meet all of them, then it's good. So then all you have to do is just make sure, like you said, you had that contract thing. Maybe each one of it's like, this is a stupid example, but like a waiver. Yes, I'm here of my own free will, blah, blah, blah. That's obviously an autistic example. Can't think of an example of how to apply this. But again, you're the one who wants to do this later in life, supposedly. So this might be something for you to think about.
He was sort of when I came across James's example, I was like, oh, well, this is what I want to recreate. I want to recreate a condition where I have 5, 6 loyal wives, and they all have a couple of kids each, and we're all living together in a really big family. Yeah. That's what I want to recreate. I want a harem. I don't want just one woman.
Yeah, if everybody's fulfilled, who am I to say otherwise, right?
Exactly.
It's going to suck for 5 other guys in New South Wales right now who are jerking off to porn and well, where's mine?
Exactly. Someone said in the chat, who was it in the chat here? Alpha Sloth raised an interesting question. He said, "Why would you publicize any of this?"
There.
And I think part of the reason why it was kind of a like a recruiting tool in a way. Like when he publicized it on his Instagram,
right?
That lifestyle attracts women, and I think that might have been how he found some of the last couple of girls, was just by advertising the lifestyle, and then girls would come in and audition.
No, that's a good point. I guess you can't really day game approach girls for this kind of thing. Hey, baby, you want to see 5 of your friends?
Yeah, I mean there are like BDSM circles, and there's BDSM communities, and you can network that way, and you can introduce girls into a lifestyle that way. But I think that might have been one of the reasons why he was advertising it. Another reason was to attract potential women into it who might be interested in that sort of thing.
Well, I think where Sloth is going with this then is, was he doing it for self-congratulatory, like narcissism, like, look how awesome my life is? Was he flexing?
Maybe. I mean, look, it's a flex. It's a hell of a flex. And, And look,
I gotta get off of her. She's ugly as sin.
I would look, if I wasn't, when I recreate this, I'm probably going to flex on it as well. I'm not going to lie. It's just like, well, I mean, who wouldn't?
Well, that's the thing. In this day and age, let's assume that he could source girls outside of social media. He doesn't need it at all. What's the benefit of, what do you get out of the flex? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what happens after the flex? He gets a little dopamine hit. It's basically video games for guys who get laid.
Yeah, maybe.
In my opinion. And I would say almost, if you're taking this thing seriously, that's like, what do you want more? Do you want to have your 6 wives, or do you want to have your Instagram flex,
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, I could be totally wrong on this one. This is just me thinking out aloud, just because I try to map this as best I can to things that I am aware of, and the online branding media climate that we have right now. So many guys who flex that get called out on it. It ruins their lives. Especially the guys that rent Lamborghinis or rent girls, and as soon as they get a hit piece put out on them, it's basically like Roosh. Remember Roosh?
Mm.
His call out was amazing. All it was nobody even read the fucking article. It was one photo from his mom's house in London of him answering the door in a t-shirt and jogging pants with fucking food stains on the front. Literally the same thing here where they're like, oh, she's an underage girl. Like, no, she's not. It was basically playing off Roosh as he was sitting in his mom's basement eating Cheetos. And I was like, that's the most effective hit piece I've ever seen. Another good one was Robert Fisher. You may not know who this guy is. He was the guy who started the Red Pill subreddit. We're fairly big, hugely popular. He ended up being like an ombudsman or something like that for the Republican Party. And after they were looking for Orange Man bad scalps, it was the same thing for his. His hit piece wasn't criminal. They were talking about this is criminal. He should be in jail. Same as this. But all they did was they showed pictures of him being overweight. They showed pictures of his nerdy hobbies. And they showed his weird synth waves DJing career. And that was all they showed. And it's reminded me so much of this. Because literally they didn't say anything about him breaking the law. And I know we've been harping over this point at all. Everything they said is basically he's an asshole. These poor women. by the way, did you know this guy's an asshole?
Yeah, and there's also a bit in. I think the girl who's accusing him of all this stuff. I think she also mentions there's something in the article about him like punching her or like.
Oh yeah, the hitting. I remember. Where was that?
Hitting stuff. So now there's an important thing to understand here, and this might come as a shock to a lot of men watching this, and that is that some women, particularly some women, this sort of the overlap tends to narrow down a bit when you get into the BDSM scene. Some women do like to be consensually hit, consensually ask to be hit in a certain way.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking, what was that, Rule Zero a couple weeks back, where John Fitch was just amazed. Like, how come every girl I want with wants to be choked? Like, 100%.
Exactly.
I mean, they can't all want to be choked. You're like, yeah, I guess.
I mean, that's a lot more common than that is being the women enjoying being choked is far more. Don't get me wrong, there are some women who don't because they've actually been sexually assaulted and been abused by their partner in the past, so it's a very negative trigger for them. Yeah. There are some girls that is an absolute no-no for, and guys should watch out for that. But the key thing here is that there are actually some women who do, and I've had women do this to me. They're like, they have said to me, please, can you punch me in the face during the act of sex? And they orgasm when that happens. But
is crazy.
It is crazy. People are sick and twisted and fucked up. But but after the fact, I mean, I'm lucky because I have it filmed and the consent is filmed.
Yeah.
So I'm fine.
Well, that's what I was thinking here on this too.
Yeah,
do you see this point that I've got highlighted in here?
I can't read it from here, but
okay. 6 months into the relationship, Davis began forcing Felicity to keep a detailed daily journal entries for him. Yeah. Hundreds of pages of handwritten notes between 2012 2015. I am wondering what's in there because I'm assuming he reads them. But that's the thing.
Yeah,
I don't think
that's actually part of the contract.
Yeah,
as far as I'm aware, is that they have to keep a journal of certain things. So they basically have to self-report. Like, what did I do good today? What did I do? What did I do right today? What did I do bad today? What am I struggling with? What are my strengths and my weaknesses? It's like a self-journaling. It's a self-journaling tool. It's like a self-help tool. It's not like if that's like the worst thing they can accuse him of. Oh, he made them keep a diary.
Well, for me, it's more so what's in there because that's going to be honestly as far as evidence goes. Now, I'm assuming he's read it, so I doubt he would have kept this thing going if it's like, I just miss my mom, and you know what I mean. If somebody was writing down how it was like a kidnapping, I don't see a guy being, oh, let's do it for 2 more years. Maybe he'll just get used to it. Exactly. So I think this is going to probably either exonerate him or it's going to be something that he didn't take the legal ramifications into account, and it could be used to hang him. I'd give real money though to be able to read that thing.
That your last point there, I think is more the case. It's like he might not have been even thinking about the ramifications of this because this guy's in his I think he's in his 50s.
Yeah.
So this is like he's coming from a time, and like obviously he's been in BDSM for a while, and he's coming from a time when this stuff, the whole Me Too thing and all that stuff wasn't around. So he's sort of taking an old school approach to a new school situation, which is probably what's landed him in this situation in the first place.
Well, you said yourself too, this is part of the contract, whatever, with the chicks, right?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing all 6 of those other ones probably have one of these as well. Am I right?
Oh, they do. Yeah, they do.
That's my thought. So they obviously, whatever they write in there, I don't know what their kinks are, I don't know what their fetishes are, but if you have 6 examples of this with nothing, and then one accusing of something, but it reads exactly the same, like I said, it's a good lawyer would be able to say, well, what's the difference here? He's done this exact same thing with these people, and the way they describe it is not good. So you got a 6v1 story. I don't know. Yeah. Like I said, I don't trust that the prosecution is good enough to be able to twist the words of 6 people, handwritten notes, 3-year period. Like, they'll easily be able to make the case that, he's a dirtbag or degenerate. I won't even try to argue that one. But the case of it being criminal, I think that's going to be the one where they're going to have some trouble. And the only way it'll work is if he does something monumentally stupid. Yeah, but even then, overzealous cops can pull off a technicality. Like maybe they beat him in the prison cell or something like that. Because, in fact, you had a military guy did that. He got drunk on a flight to Halifax, and he ended up lighting a cigarette. So they had to land the plane in Toronto. He was going to get charged, arrested, lose his security clearance, all this shit. But I guess he was lipping off the cops, so he's in a cell. So the cops went in there and beat the piss out of him. And so the charges kind of just disappeared. Right. They're like, we won't charge him, but you can't talk about this. And that was the deal they made. His name was like Teflon Tom, and he never got fired for that. It was the most amazing thing. And so I could see all it takes is one white knight cop to break procedure here, and this whole thing could crumble too. But that's the thing. It's all a lot of what ifs. It's a lot of speculation. It's very, very little evidence and a lot of emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just like I said, he's in custody. As far as I'm aware, he's still in custody. I just hope he comes out of this.
Like I said, I'm sure he'll be fine. Well, I'm not sure he'll be fine.
I'm not sure he'll be fine.
Yeah.
I really think they're going to try and make an example of him.
Oh, they will. That's the thing, though. Yeah. Once this is 6 months from now, do you think anybody's going to remember this shit?
Yeah. Yeah, probably not. Because I think they had, I think it was 4 Corners or 60 Minutes Australia. One of these two programs had like this an entire show, an entire segment on this, and so it's obviously a bit like, and it came out like pretty much straight after this article. So really? this shit has been like it's almost like it's like this stuff's been prepared for a while,
coordinated.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, so I'll show you an example. This is another reason I'm not
woman hating red pill.
It sounds goofy, but at the time, this like the way James's situation is there, this is what it was like for this guy. And if you read, fuck off. For crying out loud.
I don't want to support you. Go away.
No, I don't. How do you get rid of this shit? All right, maybe I'll just... Yeah, see what I mean? It's all just pictures of him being a fat guy, and I'm really annoyed in this one. Yeah, it's on his Wikipedia page, whatever. Oh, there we go. Yeah, and see what they do here? They take, and this is kind of the equivalent of like the journaling thing of he accused of punching him in that. He made some like argument on some philosophical thing about saying rape isn't an absolute bad or whatever. They played it out, and what I think they want to do, at least in his case, what they wanted him to do was resign from his position, basically to cancel himself.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what the equivalent would be for James. Like, what kind of plea are they going to try to throw at him here? And they hope he takes it because it's going to, they're hoping he doesn't. It's from my experience with the military justice system. The reason they lay it on all this terror thick is because they want to have you get this attitude. All guys have it. It's like, I just want it to be over. And then they offer you this like, we'll just take this plea. We'll just, probation, 3 years, you give up your ranch, pay this giant fine, and it'll all go away. And it allows them to both vindicate that, yes, we went after and got a bad guy. It allows him to have the pain go away. But if he's willing to suffer through it, and he does, and like I said, I'm assuming all this, he didn't break any laws. If he's willing to go through that short-term, medium-term pain and come out the other end, he can get like a fairly good vindication, possibly even a lawsuit against the government. It wouldn't be an unheard of thing.
Yeah.
Then again, it's always possible he actually was doing all the shit they accused him of, and then he's fucked, and we're going to look like complete assholes for going to bat for him. So,
well, yeah, I mean, and look, and that's. I'm willing to I'm willing. That's the reason I'm on here. I'm willing to look. I'm because, like I said, from my interactions with the guy,
you don't see it.
Like, I don't see that in the man.
It's almost funny. Like, we're assuming he's innocent until proven otherwise.
Surprise! It's a shocking thing, isn't it? That's how we used to operate through most.
And then we're sitting here having to like justify that opinion.
Yeah.
Fucking clown world, man.
So yeah, until I see like evidence of the contrary, I'm gonna continue to assume that the man is a good man.
God, this is fascinating. If anybody here, I'm gonna talk to Chesty. He's actually a lawyer we have. He's constantly in the chat here. If we can find the court documents in this, I would love to do a video on it.
Oh yeah, that'd be pretty interesting. I'm gonna try and stay up to date with with everything back in Australia as it develops. So,
but I'll say this too. Like, did you know who Robert Fisher was till I almost showed you that article?
No.
4 years ago. Like, the memory of the internet is so fucking short that nobody will remember this in a year. I guarantee it.
Yeah, well, one can hope, right? As long as he's a free man.
Yeah.
Then
well,
one can hope.
Like I said, at this point, I don't see any reason for him not to be a free man. This is more of a public shaming.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
So here's my question then for you. So you obviously thought this was a pretty cool lifestyle to have. Like, has this given you a cooling off to the lifestyle? You're like, well, maybe just one wife is fine. Maybe I don't want to
No,
live on a ranch. Or is it
no,
just
no.
like you hit the books again? You're like, all right, time to study up.
Basically, yeah, it's just maybe more aware of the need to like take it slow and make sure that she has buy-in before you would try to get into sort of more extreme circumstances. So make sure that she is obsessed. Make sure she is like true, genuine desire, wherever you might want to describe it.
Right.
Make sure she's fully aware, like there's a real understanding. Make sure there is some kind of documentation around it, about like the nature of the consent, the nature of what's being consented to.
Yeah. What's that Bible quote about if you're lukewarm, I'll spit you out? That's all I could think about right now. Right. Jesus hanging out with hookers. Jesus Sterling. If you're lukewarm for me, I'll spit you out.
I mean, that's kind of how they're going to be in this circumstance, right?
Yeah. It is funny, though, when you think about it. Like, there's so many biblical references I can make to this. I've been trying not to because it seems kind of cheeky and I don't want to piss off the trads. I think there might be 2 in the chat anyway. I don't know, the whole thing. Yeah, it's just fascinating.
And that's the thing with trads. I'm like, tradcons, like, I think you'd be... The problem I have with some tradcons is that they're very dogmatic and they're very closed off. Mm-hmm. And that you, like, for example, I have more in common with a traditional conservative than I do with most liberals.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt that.
Despite the fact that I'm a porn star, but they wouldn't. They're immediate. And I've been in the chat. I've seen this in Rollo's chat and Richard's chat and stuff where you'll see comments like, "Oh, why are you even talking to this guy? He's a degenerate." Oh. Well, yes, I am a degenerate. That is true. But
yeah, but you did jerk off to me last week.
But I have a lot. You would be surprised. You and I would have me and this traditional conservative person would have a lot more in common in terms of value systems than either of us would have with, say, a social justice warrior.
Well, that's the funny thing. All these talks about ideology and values and that, it all comes down to like male-female dynamics at the end. Yeah,
it does. And that's why I think, there's the guys are sort of questioning, James's sort of approach, James's lifestyle. Like, okay, you don't have to be in, we're not saying everyone has to be into BDSM, but we're saying is, this was his approach to solving the problem of, like, women aren't adopting like traditional gender roles. So he found a way to sort of teach them that in a context which they weren't resistant to.
Yeah. Oh, my question. So back on the media point of this is my question. Obviously, you've been following this one closer than me. I also don't follow like the Tim Pool, like all those side of things, the conservative grifters, the liberal grifters. Has there been a lot of like weaponized YouTube videos of people making commentary shit on this, or has this been rather quiet on that front?
Quiet.
That's got to make me wonder too, because people are desperate for content, like Sargon of Akkad and they're desperate, and this is the exact kind of thing in between election cycles they'd love to talk about. I'm very curious why they stayed quiet on this one.
I think it's because he didn't have a social media presence anymore.
Oh, he wasn't popular enough to talk about.
He got rid of it like a year ago.
Oh, really?
I think that's why. It's no Twitter, no Instagram, nothing. So there's no one to go after. He's just this anomaly. He doesn't. He doesn't make a living off of it.
Oh,
so there's nothing to cancel. That's not how he makes his money. They can't take his source of income away. So okay, well, there's no point.
Don't take his pigs, goddammit.
Or they could take his pigs away. Maybe. I'm pretty sure the women are still running the farm in his absence.
Yeah, I'm assuming because he's an older guy, he's probably like a little harder. Emotionally.
Yeah, he's a hard ass. He's not like, this guy isn't the kind of guy who's just going to roll over.
Which is good, because that's like probably the best advice I've heard from anybody, lawyer, cop, military, whatever. Keeping your head on your shoulders and not panicking and not falling for the security theater is what I call it. The theater of it is probably going to be his best benefit now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd almost suggest to him, Terrence Popp. I don't know if you know who he is. Another military guy, very, very old in the red-pilled space. He's kind of MGTOW-y now, but he has a great book, The Warrior Soul. His ex-wife stabbed his dog. He took 7 years off of chicks, that sort of thing. He has a great post on administrative violence on how to handle these sorts of events. He's probably the thing that saved my ass when I first got red-pilled.
Wow.
It's just too bad that he's so old that he doesn't really do much on the internet, so he probably has no idea about any of this shit. Yeah, Terrence, you'd like him. He's an ex-Army Ranger, so You'd probably appeal to him from the military angle, the whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
So is there anything else in this one you kind of want to go on here?
Yeah,
Because
I think we've pretty much covered it all, Ryan. Yeah, it's
Right.
just I think it's an interesting thing for guys to sort of be aware of and to look out for.
super interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go a bit casual. I haven't talked to you in a while. How have you been? I heard you have a book coming out next week.
Yeah, coming out tomorrow. Coming out tomorrow on Friday. Yeah, it launches tomorrow. Yeah, it's am I part of your? I'm not sure if I'm part of your. I am a friggin'. I am a moderator on your channel. I didn't know I had the spanner.
I think so.
I just dropped too late. I just dropped the link in your chat.
Oh, good.
It's my. I can actually share I can show guys what the book is. The Ultimate Guide to Performance Anxiety.
Oh yeah, there she is.
What I have written, and it's you can if you, I've just shared the screen with you, Ryan. If you want to just pop that up on there.
Yeah.
Basically, over the last year, I've had a bunch of dudes hit me up with all kinds of questions and like on coaching calls, on Zoom calls, on call-in shows on YouTube, on like through DMs, through emails, lots of emails, lots of private DMs and stuff. Guys constantly asking me about issues with performance anxiety and how to treat them. And so, like, I've got this particular circumstance. I think I worry about this stuff. I have these thoughts. And what I decided to do is put together this guide, which is basically how I go about diagnosing dudes and helping them get over these performance anxiety issues. And it's basically like the book is broken down into, okay, here's the most common mental causes, mental thought patterns that are fucking guys up in the bedroom. Here's how to identify them, as in here's the kind of thoughts that you might be going through your head if you have this problem. And then more importantly, here's the prescription you can use to get over it. Here's a way to fix it. And it's exactly so. Rather than dudes, paying hundreds of dollars for a one-on-one session with me, they can pay a fraction of that price and get this book and go through the exact same process I would go through.
So this sounds almost more like a clinical guide as opposed to like typically what you'd see in the sphere of guys with anecdotes and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a couple of anecdotes. There's a couple of anecdotes, but it's very, very prescriptive. It's very much a choose your own adventure style. It's very much like you just jump to whatever you need to jump to and sort this fucking problem out and be done. And I actually had one guy. I had one guy email me this morning who he pre-ordered the book. So right now it's on pre-order until 9 a.m. PST tomorrow. So you can get it at half price if you jump on it now.
Ooh, you heard him, guys.
Yeah, but the guy was like, "Hey, I've got a date this weekend. I've got a date in like today's time. Can I get a copy of the book in advance?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So I shot him through the draft, and then he sent me an email this morning. It's like, Stirling's Guide to Performance Anxiety is exactly what it says. I have none anymore. This I had a great time with this girl, and she wants me to come back again. Thank you so much. I'm like, oh, fucking brilliant. That was exactly what I wanted to hear.
Nice.
So I know that guys will really benefit from this. I've had a lot of dudes signing up for it already, checking it out. So yeah, that's there for guys who and I've priced it at a cheaper price point for younger dudes because I know younger dudes like. I get a lot of younger guys or students or dudes who are a bit tight on cash these days hitting me up, be like, "Hey, man, I really want to solve this problem, but I can't afford, like to do a coaching call with you. I can't afford your course, or I can't afford this." So this handles that very, very specific problem at a much cheaper price for guys. So.
Well, that's a good thing anyway. For every price point for everybody. Now you just have to learn how to read. So for the guys that can't read and aren't making a lot of money, we're coming out with like a sign language course on it soon. I don't know. I like this. Yeah, check it out. I'm going to throw... I asked you before, but I'll put this in the description. So if you guys are watching this one later, check the description for it as well.
Cool.
Makes sense to me because it's one of those things, you're never going to get good numbers on it. It's like asking a girl for her notch count for a survey. Like, no, everybody's going to lie.
Yeah.
And you're never going to be able to get like medical doctors talking about it. So it's one of those problems, I think, that will always fly under the radar,
And so... And I want to be clear here. I do touch on a couple of the physical symptoms,
right?
And ways guys can fix, like, make sure the plumbing is working correctly down there. Mm-hmm. But this is primarily a book about the mental stuff because that's something that no one really talks about, and it's something that we talk about a lot in our industry amongst male talent, because this is the thing that fucks us up. If we have a bad day, it's because we got in our head, and so like we're very, very guys in my position are very, very qualified to teach other men how to get over that because we have to, otherwise we can't get a paycheck.
Oh, I've heard of some of these stories, even before you. Like, guys are had like, there's something you inject, and
Oh fuck yeah!
I never
That's
would
the
have
whole one.
thought that like sleeping with hot chicks all day would be something that could cause problems, but
Well, it's not even that. It's like it's it's not the hot chick thing. It's the you element. It's like the like I had a like I don't know. I had an argument with my wife, and I have to go to set and fuck this 19-year-old blonde, but I'm still thinking about the argument I had with my wife.
oh,
Whatever, like guys in that circumstance, or I, you know, my real estate agent is kicking me out, and I can't stop thinking about that, and it's stressing me out, and then I have to go to set and I have problems. Like that. This is the kind of stuff I'm talking about with dudes. So we have to deal with this like every day on set if because life happens to us just like life happens to everyone else.
so you have to compartmentalize life with the job.
Yeah, and you have to find ways to get around that. Or sometimes we're working with a girl who pisses us off, and we still have to get a boner. And there's ways that we have to figure out ways around that. So
Dude, I never thought of that. There's been times where I was talking to a girl and we probably could have smashed, but she pissed me off or annoyed me so much that I just called it off, and I couldn't imagine being in a position where I couldn't. I got a mortgage payment. All right, it's fine.
Exactly, my friend. That's yeah. I'll just drop it in the chat there again. But it's becoming more and more of a problem with younger guys. This isn't a thing that is declining. This is a problem that's on the increase, unfortunately, for dudes younger. For dudes who are under the age of 30, the rates of erectile dysfunction, performance anxiety are going up. And I would personally much rather see guys have a hard enough time as it is, like with the way the dating market is right now, with fucking getting laid as it is, let alone if they
have any kind of anxiety about it. Yeah.
If they have anxiety about it, then it's even worse. It exacerbates the problem. So I want to make sure they don't have that problem. So if they do get their hands on a girl, they can keep the damn girl around. They can keep, they can capitalize on their effort.
Yeah, not everybody has the Gene Simmons tongue to keep things going.
Exactly.
Or maybe that's chapter 9 in the book. What to do if everything else fails? And it's just a picture of like 10 fingers, a tongue, and 10 toes or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I hope not.
And I don't judge guys for having these problems. I think that's the important thing to know.
It's normal.
I don't shit on them in the book. I try my best to write it from a perspective of like, okay, I understand where this problem might be, and I've diagnosed guys this way, and I've talked over the last year. I've talked to a lot of guys who've had these problems, and so I've been able to you'll see testaments to that in the book. They've fixed their problems.
Yeah, honestly, I am very surprised. There's I poke fun, but every guy has had an experience where he's like drank too much and goes to bed that night, and you're like, ah, shit.
Yeah, exactly. The old whiskey dick scenario.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not like and the only reason there's a stigma around it is because guys are competitive, and so we always have that need to like, this is my chance, man. He didn't get it up that night, so let's call him out, and then I can get his girlfriend. And like, no, it's not how it's going to work.
That's exactly it. Yeah, and I'm like, again, I'm not sitting here like pretending I'm invulnerable, and this has never happened to me. And that's the whole point, is that it's like this. Like, I have an intimate relationship with performance anxiety because it's my job to have an intimate relationship with it. Like, I have to overcome it on a daily basis to get the job done. Or like, not so much anymore, but at the beginning of my career, I definitely had to. Mm-hmm. And so I learnt how to deal with it. And this is kind of the culmination of that.
Well, there then, you guys heard it here first. You can either get yourself a career in porn for half a decade, or you can just sell us some cash, get his Gumroad book, save yourself some time.
Save yourself some
time. And a lot of shaving.
Yeah, a lot of frustration too.
A lot of frustration, a lot of shaving. Yeah. All right, so that's all I got. I hope you guys enjoy yourselves here. This one was a bit shorter, only like an hour and a half. Anything closing thoughts before I end this one off there, Sterling?
Yeah, be careful who you tie up and flog. That's my closing thoughts on this.
Don't do it in Australia. Jesus